intro so we can get to Clyde pretty quickly? Cindy?
Yeah,
okay.
let's do.
Great. I'm going to grab our presentation and just do a few intro slides. Thanks for joining us on a beautiful Tuesday. It's very nice out there. And I know that most of you would probably rather be outside, but we're glad you're with us. So we have Clyde. Clyde will be sharing his knowledge, experience, wisdom for most of the webinar today. And 3 takeaways that I know everyone here on the team already knows. It's challenging to be a leader, especially in today's time. He has done a lot of work on continuous improvement, and we're going to focus on integrity and responsibility, which is a big part of his job. Cindy will introduce a lot more of the background when we get there, but we are glad you're joining us. And just as a reminder, we do monitor the chat. So I'm Darcy, by the way, for those who don't know, and I'll introduce Cindy, and we've got Nancy on our team and Jane, but we'll monitor the chat with questions. Think we're going to have plenty of time for some Q&A. If you have them, we'll give you a chance to ask. Cindy's going to really manage that part. We'd love for you to introduce yourself in the chat. You never know who you're going to meet, and we're glad you're here and spending an hour with us. Well, background, Cindy is the people person. I'm the strategy person, and together with our team, Nancy, who's on the call, Jane, Riley, and Mandy, we are Stretch strategic leaders, and we really do comprehensive strategic planning and leadership development. So a little bit here, I think most of you know us. We're super excited about this new training that we're rolling out, Stretch Your Impact. We may spend a little bit of time on that today. It's very tied to leadership. And we always start here with any of our stretch conversations, chats, just to role model our belief and how important these strategic concepts are. And it's so fun. Most of the people on here, our clients, have these, which we love. A purpose statement, values. I mean, we're really here to help people stretch and enjoy it. That's our big thing. We want you to actually enjoy. Lifetime value. This is one of our lifetime values, is lifetime learning, which is why we do these chats. We're big on, we all get better by sharing. And this is one of the ways we like to share. And we believe in healthy leadership. And in fact, I love seeing some healthy leaders on the call. Ty is on there from Mike's, and Chuck from Dewey's. Kathleen is on here. I mean, we have got a killer group of healthy leaders, and we're glad you're here. Our vision is 1 million of you guys. So if you guys could just start replicating, it would really be helpful for us. We want culture and strategy, which is what I believe Clyde will spend some time on today, is that culture piece of leadership in his world as a fire chief in Houston. And, you know, just a reminder of who we are in our model. I mean, we do preach this and want people to understand, to grow. And again, we have such strong leaders on this call, this chat, but you need all 3 of these. You need healthy leaders, you need winning strategies, and you need high performing teams. And I'm honored with this group to say that I think all of you believe that, and we can help you if you don't really know these. We can talk more about that, but this is what we've been sort of singing from the rafters for the past couple of years. And Cindy, just want to give a little highlight on the one piece, stretch leadership.
Yes. So as we think about how we're going to keep growing and what we've been through, what the world's going through today, you know, it really does come down to that our jobs really develop us as people. They give us joy and purpose in the work that we do. You know, none of us are immune to what's going on in Ukraine. And, you know, I'll throw in, there's a great documentary from 2014 on Netflix right now that talks about the people fighting for their freedom back then. And can't encourage you enough, because, you know, really this is about the same thing that we do with our great culture and engaged employees is what we do in our country. Is, you know, we live in an incredible place, and what we are able to have in our world is flexibility. It's about working together, And having that purpose and true leadership is what it all comes down to. So not to make it political, that's not why we're here, but it is amazing to see what we do at an international level, at a national level. And then as we talk again in a few minutes, to have someone that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, he and his wife and family, to really understand these things, that all of us on a call have this power in our hand to lead and lead well and create these things. So it's a joy to have you guys here today.
And I wanted, this is something that I know all of you are dealing with. I can't read the Wall Street and not hear about flexibility or how to do collaboration, purposeful work, and true leaders. And I just want to keep reminding, ourselves just how important that is for us to provide to our people. This is our job as a leader, to provide and help address these challenges.
Mhm.
And when we do that as a choice, Cindy says this, but part of what I know Clyde is going to talk about is how hard it is. And we always say leaders have three choices. You can freeze in the moment and put your head in the sand and think it's not there. You can flight, which is what we call go to Florida. That's happened to some of the folks we work with. They just decide to, either sell, they're out, find another place, but they don't accept it. They don't work it. They don't do it. And then the last choice that we tell all our leaders is it's a battle, prepare to battle, fight, go after it, and understand that providing and meeting these challenges is not easy. And we know that it takes a lot of effort, which is why we do these stretch chats, to help give you some tools to do that. Cindy, just a little bit on this, because I feel like I want to remind people of this messy middle for them.
Yeah. The place that I think I see the most with people as we grow, and I think this is as big as, something that we deal with at home personally or at work, but we all get to a place where, it's kind of like, I'm trying to learn a new behavior. I'm trying to take my organization to a new place, and it's messy. We laugh because on here it's called cognitive distance, and it's really cognitive dissonance. But when this slide was getting put together, our team, nobody noticed that it said distance and not dissonance. And you really think about that, the space between knowing in your head, you've called it cognitive dissonance, which is that space where you've left one place and you're going to another one, and it gets sticky, and you're like, oh, is this worth it? People are fighting about the change going on. People don't like this. And you don't have time to notice small typos, or the fact that it is a big cognitive distant place from where you are to where you need to get your people to be. But that's what we do as leaders, is we help people bridge this gap, get through the uncomfortable, messy middle in order to create great change and great personal growth in leadership. And as leaders, we have an opportunity to do that for people with respectfulness, with knowing who they are. When you hear Clyde talk about this today, I think you'll be to hear it in such a powerful way about being on the front lines of critical life-changing situations. I think we'll be able to really transmit back over to all of us for what we do every day that may not be life-threatening, but feels life-threatening because we're dealing with people and their growth. Anything else on that, Darcy?
No, I just think that we're all facing a lot of unpleasant truths this year. I mean, COVID now is still there, but now we have all the other things that are impacting our strategy, impacting our future, impacting how we will call the current reality, with supply chain, with the economy, with inflation, with all of it. So I just appreciate sometimes how much it takes to really face those uncomfortable truths and work through them. And so the self-awareness piece, I mean, again, we just are preaching this, and we will reinforce this anytime that we have a chat, that this is what we call a stretch leader. You have both self-awareness and you have strategy. And within that healthy leadership, you understand yourself, you understand others, and you're a great communicator. And this is Cindy's, this is what she does. Like, she's amazing at it. And we just want to keep encouraging leaders to become self-aware, and to really not just become self-aware, but to embrace it. Embrace the self-awareness.
Mhm.
And I think that would be a huge thing. And I don't know that, this new definition, Cindy, I mean, we've mentioned this a little bit before, but I think it's worth, before we get into Clyde, for you to spend a few moments on this, just to remind people about this shift that continues to happen.
Yeah, it does continue to happen. And this is a place of, I say to people all the time, I don't want people just managing. I don't want you to feel responsible for other people's output. I want you to let them feel responsible for it, to get them passionate and empowered about what they're doing, and then do the coaching and leading that comes from there. Move the energy to how do they want to be successful. As we go through these, it's not about having the power and authority over somebody. It's about tapping into that inspiration and influence. So, I'm not going to go through all these, but the world is changing, and we want to celebrate people, and we want people to feel like I can show up at work as a whole person. And we know that if you're not doing the things on the right, it's on my opinion, pick up any study, any paper, anything. And if we can't begin to really build our skills to a level of pure excellence on these things, we're not going to be able to keep people, and we're not going to be able to reach the true value that people bring and accomplishment for your organization.
All right. I know the funny thing here that I just wanted to touch on is that I think my team knows, and some of you know, but Logan is doing the LLS Student of the Year campaign. And what's so interesting about this leadership is that nobody reports to him. Just so you know, nobody is reporting to a junior at Seven Hills. And he is having the toughest time to figure out how to delegate to elevate, like how to get his team really to step up. He keeps saying step up. And I'm like, Logan, step up means nothing. You really have to point out what they need to do. What are their goals? How do you celebrate? What reward? And it's kind of fun to see him struggle through that. But it starts at a young age, and it continues to the ripe old age that Cindy and I are. That's super young, but still learning. But I laugh at this because he's in this right now as a 17-year-old, 16-year-old trying to figure out how to do this, and nobody's reporting to him, but he's trying. All right, so let us introduce Clyde and Cindy.
Yeah, would love to. You guys, you're in for a massive treat. I tune in and listen to Clyde on blogs, and anytime he's doing something that's public that I can hear, which isn't enough, Clyde. But Clyde and I met through his wife some 15 plus, maybe plus a couple more years ago. And when she and I were doing our coaching training out in California. And so Clyde and their first daughter, Ashlyn, came at that point, and were invited to come sit in as we did our graduation. And I just remember being impacted by Clyde and his daughter were so close, and they'd spent so much time together. And then when Melinda went up to be rewarded the certification, she took Ashlyn up with her, who was, gosh, Clyde, maybe 4 or 5 at the time. Yeah. And I just remember being so touched by that here she'd hung out with her dad all week, and got to be there with her mom, and just you see people through how they are with their children. And it was an honor to watch. And then over the years, they had another daughter, Abby, who was not with us very long, and born before my Daniel, that if y'all don't know the story, my son 7 years ago passed away after 7 years with very high special needs. So Clyde and I share that, and Melinda and I, and they started a foundation for Abby, and did incredible things in their community, giving to people that had special needs. I mean, having people come stay with them, blessing people, getting calls from hospitals that need supplies. They changed the world in that way. But through it all, I got to watch Clyde from the husband, father, and just the man he is, and grew to respect him. Like, I just can't even say enough. Like, we don't know one another well. Melinda and I are much more close, but I mean, you see so much through the eyes of mom. And their daughter has written a book on the journey with Abby. And I mean, I'll not go on and on, because I know Clyde and I will sit here and start getting all teary. But in conjunction with that, I know he, had done training, and now has been with the fire department for over 30 years. I think it's around 32. Am I getting it right, Clyde? Yeah, a long time. And you guys, he's a leader. I mean, his wife is too. I mean, they share just a heart for leadership. But you're about to hear from somebody that does. I mean, he does it. He does the real stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Clyde. And Clyde, I would love for you. I'm going to throw you. He doesn't know what I'm going to ask today. But first and foremost, what do you think is the most important thing about leadership?
So I believe for me, it's just about the trust and the confidence that people have to have in you. I think about the leaders that I've had in the past that have meant so much to me, and truly, it was just the trust that we had in them. If they were going to bring us bad news, we knew that it would be bad, but we would tolerate it because we just knew that they wouldn't do anything to harm us or hurt us. And in my environment right now, we're going through some changes and some things. And I think the biggest problem that we're having with our leaders currently, my leaders, is that we just not sure which direction they're coming from and if they actually have our best interest in mind. And it makes things very, very difficult when you just don't have trust.
Yeah. That is a powerful statement, because one of the things that I've heard you talk about is the idea of practice and training. And I know you've traveled literally all over these days. You're a man on the road teaching everything from I saw one thing on lithium ion batteries and what to do with them, to hoses. I think we were trying to get on the phone recently, and you were somewhere teaching about hose protection and care. But for you, when you think about the aspect of building into your people, the power of training, what have you learned? What do you have to teach us?
So I guess my world may be a little different, but then it does have similarities. What I deal with life and death situations, and that's of my client, the public, and then my employees. I potentially could every day send some of my best friends slash, I don't consider them employees. They're my family. They work with me, and we do things that are significantly different than some of the world. But I could potentially send them to their death at any moment. So with that, we have to be very skilled at what we do. Just a high priority. And for us to encourage that training, complacency is a problem in the fire service. It's real easy to get discouraged, and your boss isn't treating you right, or it's easier to go in and watch some TV than it is to do what we need to do. But the people down the street, for us, they don't care what your problem is today. When they dial 911, they need the expert that they expect. And that's really where we need to strive to be. And I do that just by setting expectations, what I expect the folks around me to do on a daily basis, and then holding them to those expectations.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting to me. I have a nephew who's a police officer, and he's a junkie to the adrenaline. I mean, it is like, I think about his life. You sit in that car, or now he's in an office doing some secret FBI something, I don't know. And I mean, the highs and lows of it for you guys, it's really, you almost are addicted to that high. And how do you balance that out in the low?
There's no doubt that most of us do this. I'd like to always say it's to help your neighbor, and the classic answer. And to be honest with you, when I first started, it was all about the cool stuff I was doing and the highs. I have to just be honest. Now that I've aged a little and I've grown up a little and matured a little, I realize that we're truly here to help others and to protect our, the neighbor. But there is a problem with the highs and lows because it goes from, hours of boredom to sheer terror for 20 minutes back to boredom again. And I think just working through that every day with them. We have a fairly set routine, what we do as far as training and getting out and doing things. What we do is a little different. It's more of a family atmosphere. We spend 24 hours a day together. There's a certain amount of professionalism, obviously, that we have to maintain. And it's a strange mixture. It's a business and a family. We have to have some of that family attached to it because of just the situations that we're placed in. When you're in near-death experiences with people, it changes you. I always tell people it'd be really inappropriate for me to dump water on someone who was next to me in a cubicle in an office. But if you went to a family reunion and you pushed your cousin in the pool, it would just be funny. Well, that's kind of art, there are certain things that we do. We need that, the monotony broken. You'll find that, training with water and hoses somehow always ends up with someone getting wet. It's just kind of part of it. And I think really these type A personalities and these guys who are really high strung and really go-getters, they need to break that up and just have a good time once in a while. And again, it's part of the family. I mean, if you lived in a family that never had fun, I mean, it wouldn't be much of a family. So.
Hey, Clyde, can I just ask a question? That came in on chat. It's related
Sure.
to that. Are you feeling the constraint for hiring firefighters? I mean, is it harder? I mean, how is it impacting you and your organization? What are you doing?
So we are, well, in our world, so when I first started with the fire department, there probably in Texas, I'm just going to guess there were 10 or 20 places you could go to work and get paid for what I do. Now every community has a paid fire department. So now there's 500 or 600 places for people to go to work. It's made it hard for large cities to get good employees because typically large cities don't pay as much. They make a lot more runs than some of the smaller communities. So it is harder to draw the best applicant. I'll be honest with you, I'm not directly related to that, but we have suffered in drawing those good employees. I think we have to sell what we do, though, not only what we are called to do on a daily basis, but what else do the fire departments have to offer. I do see the ones that do well. It's more than money. It's what kind of environment or culture have they created there? Is it a place I can work for 20 or 30 years? Most firefighters go to a job and they never leave for 20 or 30 years. And most people don't do that. So what is the draw and how can you benefit their families and themselves to stay with you for a long time? Obviously money and retirement and all of those things, but the culture, I think, has a lot to do with it. Am I going to be surrounded by people who have the same mindset that I do?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. What happens when you have somebody who's not falling in line with your culture, Clyde? How does the world of fire handle that?
Yeah.
That you can share with us without the water hose being an issue.
Waterboarding.
Right. Things have changed significantly in the last 30 years that since I came in. If I didn't fit in, well, they would have fixed that really easily. But, none of that is acceptable anymore. But it is a paramilitary organization. So there is a certain amount of you're going to do what I say because I say. But, we all know how far that goes with people. That's just not going to work. So I encourage people to fit into our culture and our expectations, but really spending time with them. I attempt to spend as much time as possible with every single person that works with me. If I understand where they're coming from, what their life is like, the problems they're having at home, those type of things really help me to figure out which person needs to do what and where they fit in. Um, all of us are different, and the young folks of today are different. And, a lot of people get frustrated with them, but I think it's just a matter of learning where they're coming from and what motivates them. Our goals are the same. We have to be on top of what we do to help people. But how do you get them there is a lot different. Some of the older guys just do it because they've been told to do it their whole life, but it doesn't make the best employee. I really want them sold and bought in and part of the team. I like to say, my district, the guys that work with me, there's about 45 of them. We all have the same goals in mind and the same mindset. We have the opportunity to move around, and guys can come and go. And I think they get into that environment, and if they're part of it and they enjoy it, then they stay. Some will move on because they would just rather do something else, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with it. So.
And what happens if you have people that, are reporting to a bad leader? I'm sure there are times that you're handling that, trying to coach that leader, or if they call you from a different district, what's your recommendation on that?
Sure. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and what I've found mostly is a lot of people just don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle those situations. So, and I've had to learn too. I mean, I've become much more aware of how I am and how I approach things. And, sometimes I have to give it a little time before I talk to someone. But I really attempt to mentor people and set up mentors from every rank. We have different ranks. So I like the peer mentors, and I find a strong leader at that rank, and I try to, get people together. And but sharing the expectations has really been a benefit to me, from the lowest, newest member to the oldest member that I have with me. They understand what our goals are and what I expect from them. And when they don't meet those expectations, then we just need to figure out why. Is it a training issue? Do we need to just talk about it? And they have no idea what I even meant when I told them whatever, or is it motivation, or what is it? And let's bring them up to our standard. What we're not going to do is lower our standard to meet their expectation. They have to raise up to our expectations. And then we just continue to raise the bar. We don't have room for problems or poor leadership or anything else. I mean, it happens, obviously. We're human and nothing is perfect, but we're always striving to improve what we do.
Yeah.
I love that whole thing about expectations. I know I shouldn't go back to Logan, but he was telling his team to step up. And I'm like, Logan, that's not specific. They have no idea what that means. So then he described it. He said, pick an event to help, go ask 3 people and find a sponsor. I'm like, okay, like they can understand that. Do you mind sharing maybe some expectations you talk about, like specifics?
Right. So, simple things like daily training. You have to train every single day in our world. There's always a day that you couldn't for whatever reason, but this shouldn't be the norm. What do I expect you to do on the fireground? So the fireground doesn't tend to what we call freelancing. You can't just make decisions on your own and do what you think is best. But I believe there's a difference. There's a free thinker. We're all smart people. We all have our own experiences and everything else. So I encourage my members to free think. If you have a great idea, let's go with that direction. But it also kind of comes under an umbrella of my expectations. If you're going to go out here and place your crew in harm's way that's excessive and doesn't make sense, then obviously that's not my expectation for you. But you let me know, hey, I'm about to go do this because I think it's the best thing for us to do. Then that's exactly what I want you to do. I come up with all of the ideas and decisions. Are you still there? Because I lost you.
Yeah, we're here. Uh-oh.
Okay. Yeah, you froze a little bit,
So,
but we can hear you.
oh, okay. Uh, things of that nature. I try to uh, explain to them like on an aggressive attitude. I want them to arrive and be ready and be aggressive towards saving lives, creating survivable space, and removing fire victims. That is the key thing that we do. That's the one thing that we do that no one else can do. So they need to be at a high level of that. Good decision making, things of that nature is really what I'm trying to get across to them.
Mhm.
A
No, I
lot
love
of
it.
leaders in our service want to be a micromanager. They want to tell you every single thing to do. That is not how I want to do things. I want you to be able to think and make decisions. So if I tell you to search the second floor, I'm not going to tell you where to enter and how to enter and what to bring with you. You need to be able to get in there and make those decisions on your own. And if it doesn't make sense and it's better to go to the third floor, then I need you to be a free thinker and tell me, hey, I need to go to the third floor. And then simply it's a yes or no from me.
Mm.
But
Wow.
it's trust. I trust your experience, and we have spent enough time together that if you tell me that, I'm gonna trust your decision and I'm allow that to occur.
Yeah. It is fascinating to think that you all will spend 24 hours together.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, right? A guy going through a divorce, a guy just had a baby, his wife is sick, whatever. You go through all those things together. I would assume, of course, I've never done a lot of it, but you probably can work with people in a business world and really not know much more about day to day what you chit chat with at lunch. But we go through everything together. When Abby died, the pallbearers were firemen. Those were my family. And when I came back to work after that, they very closely paid attention to me and what was going on with me because they knew that I was not in the greatest of places, and
Mhm.
I would see them peering around a corner with one eye, looking at me, make sure I was okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That really, I think we all have to find that balance in the, more of the marketplace than the, what you guys are doing. But I do think I don't think it's been studied that we perform best for the manager who cares. And I may not want to tell you all of my deep, dark secrets. I'm not sure that's needed. But I think in terms of knowing one another, that's just life. And the research actually says that you perform best for the manager who cares, and you know that they care and there's trust established. Second best for the manager who's just a butthead and doesn't care but rides you hard. And third for the complacent manager. The complacent manager is the absolute worst, the one who doesn't show they care, but doesn't necessarily push you to do your best. That was people's least favorite situation to be in, which I find to be fascinating because just sitting here thinking about what you're saying, complacency for y'all is death.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I tell people I'm a kitchen table chief. So at the fire station, the kitchen table is where all the decisions are made and all the problems are solved and all the fires are put out. And I know chiefs who spend most of their time in their office and they're disconnected with their crews. Just sitting around the kitchen table with a pot of coffee and watching the guys come through and talking about whatever they talk about. At first, it made them uncomfortable because why is the boss out here? Like I was spying on them, and then they realized that I had nothing to do with it. I just wanted to be connected with them.
Mhm.
It has made a huge difference for me. And you're talking about the other leaders. We always have the nice guy. We talk about the nice guy. Man, he's a nice guy, but it always comes with a but, and but are good. And then the guy who got promoted and carries a gold badge, and he's going to force you to respect him. Well, no one. They do what he says because he's the boss, but you have to earn people's trust and respect. And I think if you do that, it goes so much further
Yeah.
than anything else. I know the ones I've worked with that I have trusted, and they've earned my respect. I would have physically died for them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a chance to go to Florida, which was really fun. But when you go, we went shelling down in Sanibel or in Captiva last week. This past, I just got home last night. And so you have a lot of think time and stuff just comes to you. And I had a flashback to an annual meeting we were having where we were inviting everybody to speak up with their truth. And I was executive director of an organization, and one of the departments that didn't report through me reported up to the head of the organization, said in this meeting that they didn't see me. I never came around to see them. They were in another part of the building and I never talked with them. And it was so interesting because I didn't think I needed to, because the other people who reported through me, I was in their space all the time. But when you said that, I was like, gosh, I was just thinking about that this weekend, that even the people that people need to see leaders.
Yeah.
That was a big lesson for me. Like, I sat there like stunned. It wasn't even in my conscious thought that I didn't see them. And the other people in the room were kind of defending me and saying, we see her too much, But that brown bag lunch, the walk through, it makes a difference.
Well, and I'm even connecting it to how do you build trust and confidence if they don't see you? Like, I think the strategy, right, to build trust and confidence is that they see you. There's no other way to do it. You can. And so it's a good reminder. And I know we get caught in meetings, doing strategy for a living. But how much time are the leaders out there or in the virtual world connecting with their people, even on a phone call or a Zoom? It is still important to show up. And I know that leaders have to, that's a difficult balance for them. But I love the kitchen table, chief. I love that, Clyde. I also love free thinker. I think those are such good takeaways for us as leaders, and to remember those couple of things. Those are good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So can I ask if the group, any of our esteemed folks on the lucky folks on our chat would like to ask any questions? I got Will's. We'll ask a question in the chat, but if anyone has any others, they can. If not, we'll keep asking questions because Cindy and I could talk for days. Anyone have a question?
Can I say mine?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I just found it ironic that same topic was on my mind this week about visibility of leadership. Because even in an autonomous role and myself being a leader, the person at the next rank being, gone from the office, why does it matter so much when I don't really need to see them? I don't need anything. I can't get my mind around why I care so much, because there's very little interaction to begin with. So.
But you do care, right? Like
yeah.
Why should, but you do, right? Yeah, that's good.
But I don't want to, because it shouldn't change anything.
Right. Yeah.
It does naturally though. Yeah. Clyde, coming back to you, I think about if I tell somebody to go to second story and they need to go to third, I want them to go. When you were talking about that, I was like, yeah, tell me to go to second story of a burning building. If I don't trust you, I ain't going nowhere. That's, or the worst is the adrenaline junkie who goes and doesn't think about it.
How are things changing, Clyde, with virtual or remote, or is any of that impacting you in the fire? No, nothing.
We do more training and meetings and things of that nature, but no, ours will always be boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Things change, but it's typically not in that aspect.
Yeah.
But you're talking about being seen, and I was thinking about some of the things that I do, and I always, on the fireground, when things have settled down, I always walk through and check on all the guys and where they've been, and pat them on the back, tell them how much I appreciate them. But I was told one time that a guy came to work for me because we were doing some training, and I typically don't lead the training. I try not to do that, but I'm always around and involved because I want to know what they're doing. And anyway, of course, we wear white shirts and shiny shoes. And this one guy was amazed because I was in a burned out house and all my stuff. And he told me later he'd never seen a chief get down on his hands and knees and share things with the group because they needed to be clean or they needed to be this or that. And I was just being who I was, but it made that little simple gesture that I did, which I just thought I was doing what Clyde does, made a huge impact on this guy. And he actually came to work with me, and he's been one of my best friends since. It just made a big impact. And we don't realize the small things that we do make such a huge impact with our employees or the people we work with. And it doesn't take much, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
There's another question in the chat, which is a good one, around building trust quickly with new employees. Any insight on that one?
I think just getting to know who they are, and they're going to have to learn. If everybody else in the group is trusting you, then they'll start picking up on that. People can read people pretty well, and they'll know if you're fake, and they'll know if the whole group doesn't trust you. Well, they'll just going to fall in line like cattle. I mean, they'll be doing the same thing. So I created that with others, and the rest of the group has a trust in you, then you probably will see it pick up pretty quickly that these other folks they're on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The trust part, it just matters so much and people do know. I mean, what you just said, the brain knows whether or not this person is who they are. I mean, unless you're just literally a pathological liar that isn't sending off any signals, the brain can tell, are you really interested in me? Darcy, I think about one of the boys when you were, I think, cooking dinner or doing dishes, and he said, you're not listening to me. And Darcy said back to him, I am listening. And he goes, well, then tell your eyes, listen to me with your eyes. Was that the
listen,
line?
that was it. Listen with your eyes. And I was like, shit, that's good. Like, that's crazy.
Dang, out of the mouths of babes.
Dang. Okay, we got another question here from Chuck. How do you ensure your direct reports are having the same level of EQ, emotional intelligence, and connectivity with the next level down? How do you know they trust each other?
Well, I think for me, I spend a lot of time in the field and visit with these people, and there's really no rank structure for me. I have a good balance. We're on the fire ground. I'm the boss, and no one questions that. I have a command presence. When I show up and there's work to be done, then they know where the decisions are coming from. But the rest of the time, I'm pretty approachable, I like to think. I like to be fair, and I want an environment to where they can just come and talk to me about what they need. And speaking with the people who work with me, and make sure they're that approachable also. We had a scenario where a guy he had a lot of trauma from the war, and they met me that morning, and this guy was in a horrible situation, was trying to kill himself. I mean, if they hadn't have felt they could trust me with one, that, and two, they could approach me. I mean, there's no telling what would have happened with that. So I think just being out there, you have to be human with people. They have to know you have weaknesses and things bother you too. But they also have to know that they trust you, and you're one of them. We're in this together, I think, is the thing for me.
Yeah. That's powerful too, because Chuck, who asked the question, is an incredible leader that leads with heart and soul. I've worked with him for a decade plus. And he wants his organization to do that. But I like what you're saying in that, we have to be out in the middle of it, which is hard, because I know for him, Chuck, speak up if I'm putting words in your mouth. But, you don't want to walk in also and make people feel like you're checking in on them. I love the kitchen table fire chief, that really, it's balance of finding that right place.
Well, I think it was something that we had to work on, because when I initially was there, they would sneak around me, and and then I guess they finally realized that, well, he's not going to go away, and then they would start to open up a little, and they thought, well, that didn't tip him off, you know what I mean? That didn't bother him. So as time went by and they realized it was just my personality, I wasn't faking anything. I wasn't trying to be someone else. It was just who I was. I would rather be with them than sitting in my office somewhere. So now, what I do allows that. But they finally, again, it was just building relationships. They have to know who you are, and you can be the boss and still be connected to them.
Yeah.
So
Or
I had a question about your onboarding process. Like when you bring, I'm going back to Will's the leads training and his at Mike's, and that's a car wash, a great, very successful car wash, but it's hard out there bringing folks in and onboarding folks and building out that leadership. What do you do for like when people join, like what do you do for onboarding?
Well, it starts very early for us in the academy, just helping them understand what our purpose is. But when they come work for me, it's the same thing. Spending time with them, they need to understand what our mission is. There's 100 fire stations in the city of Houston, so they're all of them are a little different, but we have to just be open and honest with them and let them know what your mission is there, what you're expecting from them, and showing them. If you expect, in my world, if you expect kindness and openness and treating people right, well, when you're out in public in front of them, you need to be kind and treat people right.
Mm-hmm.
You say it and they go do something else. You need to show them, you need to lead by doing. And that's the easiest thing, because if they're seeing you do it, it's going to make them feel really uncomfortable not to do it. So in my world, they're just going to move on and go somewhere else, or they're going to start fitting in, because they know there's certain things that I just won't tolerate.
Mm-hmm. So crazy question that I know you're not expecting this one, but it won't be the first time you've been asked. How are fire departments doing with women in leadership and women in the job? I mean, it's tough because of the physical nature of what y'all do.
I think, I'm not gonna lie to you, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, I mean, it was like a big deal. I think most of what you see now, I mean, for me, I could care less. It's about what's in your heart. You know what I mean? If you have a heart for the fire service and the firefighters and the people we serve, it doesn't mean anything to me, because we're all built different and we all do different things, but I like it. I think ladies bring a whole nother level to the fire station. It's not near as much of like a frat house, which is a good thing. To me, it's a huge plus. I'm sure you could drag up some guy, you know what I mean, somewhere. We have 4,000 employees. I tell people we probably have at least one of everything to pick, but no, I think overall that it's not even an issue anymore. At least in my world, it's not. I don't see it. Yeah. I have friends all over this country, male and female, and man, some of the ladies, I'd take them 100 times over than some of the guys I know. I mean, they into the job and they do it well. So ladies they just bring a good whatever vibe into the station, I think.
Yeah. That's fun to hear.
What's a chat like? If you look back, what was your most challenging time or a challenging leadership decision or something and then sharing that? I'm curious.
You know, I guess for me, it's constant. Some of the things to do are pretty easy and kind of our bread and butter. Um, I have a lot of concern with getting somebody hurt. Now, what we do is inherently dangerous. I have to accept that I go to work, I don't know, Thursday or Friday, something like that, that, you know, I could leave there and not bring all my people home. So I can't dwell there, but I have to understand that's a possibility. So making those decisions and making the right decision at the time, making sure I don't miss a clue. I talk about, you know, police officers. If they were going to raid a house down the street, they'd spend a week looking at it and trying to see where the booby traps were and the locks and all of those things. But if that same house catches on fire today, we have about 4 minutes to respond and then about 30 seconds in the front yard to make all the decisions that they would make and not get someone killed. So that's really, for me, the hardest thing, because I take it very seriously, and you just don't want to miss anything. But I have to lay my head down at night knowing that I did every single thing that I could to the best of my ability. For what I knew at that moment, I did the best I could and made the best decisions I could. So that's where complacency has no place. Even 30 something years of doing this, I have to maintain on top of my skills. I have to practice. I have to research. I have to go to conferences, all of those things to make sure I'm ahead of the game every that I can be. And some things, you know, in our world, you just can't see coming. And that's probably the scariest thing for me and the biggest challenge. And to build that trust, because, you know, I tell the people in my world that I teach, like, where the firefighters are making entry, if I'm in charge of that fire, they'll walk past me. If I'm sending them in there, and we need to make eye contact with each other, because that's a trust. They trust me to watch, and I trust them to make the right decisions while inside. And it's a big deal for me, because if they don't come back, I had to know that we were trying to do the best thing that we could do. So that's the hardest for me.
Here, yeah, that's great. And I know that it gets to the training too, right? I mean, if you're well trained, the decisions are much easier, right? I mean, that's
Right.
Yeah.
What we do daily has to be muscle memory.
Right. Yeah.
You have a lot less panic and a lot less everything else if the basic skills that are there are just come from muscle memory. You don't have to think about those. So when the really bad things happen, or you're trapped or whatever, then you can think past some of that and work through it. So yeah, it's imperative. We have to be really good at what we do.
Cindy, there's one more question that came up.
Yeah.
It was just around how different are the cultures at the different firehouses, and how unique is yours, or
I think so. There's 20 districts. I run a district. There's about 20 districts in the city of Houston, and I would say probably that's about 20 different fire departments. We have the same rules, regulations, guidelines, all of those things, but each is probably fairly unique in its way. There are a lot of similarities, but due to leadership, as what we consider a district chief, that's what I am. I kind of set the tone and how things will be done and how that leadership is done. And all of us are a little different. And so, you know, it really boils down to who that guy is. And you'll see guys, they flock towards certain types of leadership. Some guys like the easy guy, the nice guy who, you know, doesn't look for anything. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'll be honest with you. Not everybody wants to come work.
What?
You can't imagine that. We're fans.
So, the guys who want to do the job like to work for me, but it's just like everybody else. Some guys want to go and watch TV all day. That's it. If you get paid to do that, why wouldn't you? But it's not what we do. So
It's awesome. Awesome, Cindy. We're at 5 minutes if you want to. Yeah, we're good. Just, you close how you want to close.
Well, you know what, I'm going to hand it over to you, Clyde. If you, in your just heart, what's on your heart about leadership in today's world, and what would be the thing that you'd want to leave as our kind of final wisdom from Clyde?
Well, my world is really small. I live in a silo. I know one thing, that's the fire service. Since I was 16 years old, this is what I've done. I started, as a volunteer, and it's just all I know. So, but I do know what I have gained from the people that I've had so much respect for is, one is trust. You can't lie to people. You have to be fair. You have to be honest with them. If you don't know, you tell them you don't know, and you're going to figure it out and get some help. You have to gain people's trust. If not, I don't believe they're going to want to work with you, and they won't go the extra mile. That's the thing.
Good.
All about going the extra mile. They are going to get on a roof that potentially will collapse because I told them to go there, and they trust me, and they think I got their back, and I'm trusting them that if it's bad, they'll tell me, hey, it's bad and we got to get off. So for me, that's the biggest part, is trust, because you'll get the bare minimums from somebody just because you're the boss. But if they trust you and feel like you have their best interest and their family's best interest in mind, then that will push them to a new level. We have a problem right now in the Houston Fire Department. I'll be honest with you. It's a political issue, the pay, a lot of reasons not to want to work here. But the guys still come to work and give outstanding service because they know what they do matters. And one, they trust me, and they know that we're here for other people. And the little old lady and the babies down the street, they don't care what my problem or your problem is today. They need the best they can get, and we have to produce that and show up with that every single day.
It's awesome.
Excellent. I know. Well said. Well said. I'm so thankful, Clyde, that you came and shared with all of us. I've got, my pen has just been writing away.
Me too.
I know. I know. I love it.
I'm sure everybody, if I know the people that are here, they've all been writing too. I bet you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very thankful that you guys asked me. I'm here. Anything I can do, I'd love to be able to do. So.
Well, thank you.
Well, I got a lot of thank yous on the chat, Clyde. We appreciate it. I'm sure Jane has got a summary of points that she'll probably put together, because I saw Jane taking notes too. So we appreciate you. We appreciate all the people that work with you too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.